Hi, everyone. Welcome to Action Hour. Do I have a show for you? Today, I have Million Vegan Grandmothers founder, Tami Hay, and she is going to talk to us about gut health, about Homo Ahimsa, about the cow in the room, and many other things. She is the founder of Million Vegan Grandmothers. And if you don't think grandmothers are powerful, watch this.
I loved an anecdote from another interview you did where you're talking about how you had grandmas doing a letter writing campaign.
Yeah, it was the third largest shareholder in Huntington Life Sciences, the lab we were targeting. I was young and I was like, letter writing's a waste of time. And these grandmas were like, hey, we're doing a letter writing campaign. And they would get together and they'd write letters every week or every month or something. And they would call the office and be like, hey, just letting you know we're doing our letter writing. We're like, yeah, great. And they did it for like 6 months or 12 months or something. And finally we were like, we should do a demonstration against Oracle to, support their letter writing campaign. And so we organized a protest and we put out a press release saying we were going there. And then we got a call from Oracle and we're like, we're going to sell our shares in the lab. And we're like, okay, well, what we always do is like, can you write us a letter saying you're done with the lab and we'll make it public so people know? And they said, sure. They wrote this letter and it was basically like the lab, we thought was going to turn itself around, but it's still engaged in like terrible animal cruelty, something we didn't want to be associated with. But mostly we just need these letters to stop. Like enough with these letters being written to us, as like these grandmas had written so many letters to this company that they were like, God, just make the letters stop. Like we don't want anymore. And that really like changed my mind about the idea of like, we need all the tactics. Because previously I was like, we need action. We need, heavy handed this and protests and get in people's faces, letter writing. What a waste of time. And then it's like, well, they moved this giant corporation that we couldn't do. And it really, it was a good lesson to be learned that it's really all the tactics coming together.
Really. And that is so true. All the tactics coming together is what it takes. Thank you so much for being on, Tami. I want to jump right in and have you tell us, where did you get this idea for Million Vegan Grandmothers? And tell us a little bit about your vision.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. I had been working with climate healers for a couple of years, and I was talking to a friend about how much a 50-year vegan, beautiful artist, Jeff Francis, about how much I love my grandkids, who at this point are not being raised vegan. But it's the biggest conversation with this 4 and 6-year-old that you ever seen in children. And I went to bed one night with this idea of how I was going to be, of influence to the children. And I woke up and I was like, oh, the grandmothers are going to gather. And I called my friend Jeff and he said, 1,000 of them. And then I talked to Dr. Sailesh Rao and Judy Carmen, who wrote Homo Ahimsa, and they said, no, it's going to be 1 million. There's easily 1 million vegan grandmothers in the world right now if we look at the number of vegans and the number of grandmothers. So I presented this to Sailesh and he was like, yes, yes, yes. We need the grandmothers to lead the way in climate healers. I want to start answering to the grandmothers, like in all the ancient tribes where the grandmothers were held in such high regards as the wisdom carriers and the feminine divine and the ability to source from love and not from fear and ego and anger. And if we use that love, the way we love our grandkids, that fierce love and protection, we will do it. We will change the world.
I have so many questions for you, but the first question, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You said that your grandchildren are not yet vegan, but that is the catalyst for you starting this. Is that correct? Or was I not hearing correctly?
Yes. And not just my grandchildren, the grandchildren of us all, and the grandchildren of all species. In many, many species, the grandmother was the one that did a lot of the teaching. And because they taught from a place of unconditional love, the grandchildren and the grandbabies of all species were present for that. There's an ancient wisdom in that.
Absolutely. I want to get people a little more familiar with climate healers if they are not yet. So let's watch this clip of Dr. Sailesh Rao, who is the founder of Climate Healers, and he is talking at the UN about the cow in the room.
So We have created an entire website and a documentary, a short 1-minute clip that shows you why animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change and why we need to be addressing the cow in the room.
Methane is a greenhouse gas that causes climate change.
So much is being emitted that life on Earth is collapsing.
Know where most of it comes from? Me. But it's not my fault. It's yours.
There are over 1 billion cows now.
To feed us, you tear down forests to create new grazing land. But we need trees to capture greenhouse gases. The climate disaster is human-made, not cow-made. But you can slow it. You can stop it. You must stop eating meat.
Me too.
A plant-based diet is good for all us animals and the climate. You can make a difference. Transform to a plant-based diet.
So the 4 animals represent 4 aspects of the cow in the room that's being ignored. The pig represents obesity and chronic diseases. The chicken represents pandemics. And we can see all of us wearing face masks everywhere, and yet we are continuing to eat animals. So that's the cow in the room that we need to address. And the fish represents what we are doing to the ocean. We're devastating the ocean. We are pouring plastic pollution into the ocean. And the microplastics are working their way up the food chain and getting back to us. And of course, the cow, the main character in this, is Vega, and she represents the environmental issues surrounding animal agriculture. So there are 2 major engines of planetary destruction that we have unleashed. The first is the burning machine of fossil fuels and energy and industry, and that's what everyone seems to be focusing on at COP26. There is very little attention being paid to the second machine of destruction, which is the killing machine. And you would think that it is common sense that if the planet is dying around us, and you have a killing machine that is killing 88 billion land animals and 1 to 3 trillion sea animals every year, that perhaps that killing machine has something to do with the fact that the planet is dying around us. And yet, everyone ignores the killing machine. This is the cow in the room.
Now, we know that it's important for us to reach all the grandmothers, to reach those 1 million grandmothers, because many of them have more than 1 grandchild. And so exponentially, this can be very powerful. But I would like you to explain the concept of Homo sapien versus Homo Ahimsa and why that's such an important part of all of this. And then we'll go back and talk a little bit more about what Dr. Rao was just talking about.
Yes. So Homo Ahimsa is a book written by one of the grandmothers, Judy Carmen. And she's such a gorgeous soul. I just love Judy. We're in constant contact and sharing information. Judy's vision is that the time of Homo sapiens is finished, and we've moved into Homo Ahimsa. Ahimsa is the most beautiful word, meaning non-harm, non-violence, and that we were to become a species of Homo Ahimsa, and that is how we are going to change the world. And that's how the true essence of grandmothers love, deeply, unconditionally, and passionately. And that is what, if we're going to transform this world, that's how we're going to do it. And yes, so thank you, Judy, for letting me share a little bit.
So how are you doing with your friends and associates that are grandmothers? How do you take Dr. Rao's message? I love the fact that this video that we just saw, it doesn't, it's not graphic, but it's effective. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about your approach and how it's in line with Dr. Rao and his philosophy?
Yeah, so the Grandmothers was founded out of working with climate healers, and how well, the only way I believe that we're going to be able to bring in a vegan world by 2026, which was his original vision. So when Dr. Rao is a systems analysis, one of the founders of the high-speed intranet, and so he knows how to crunch systems to really get the truth out of them. And one of the things that Sailesh discovered when he started crunching numbers is the rate of ecosystem diversity, the wild animals that are disappearing on the planet. At the rate they're disappearing, they will be gone by 2026. We don't have much more time. The grandmothers need to gather together, and in many, many cultures, the grandmothers were held in such high regards, as the people that were looked to. So as Joya says, if the grandmothers become vegan and they start promoting it and being present to that in their family and teaching the community of how they can be well through veganism, then the world will change. Mm-hmm.
And let's watch another clip here to see how.
Ahimsa is Sanskrit for non-harm, non-violence, a beautiful word. Here's the pledge, and we invite everyone to take this pledge. I pledge to honor and protect all the animals, peoples, and Mother Earth herself by following an infinitely sustainable, cruelty-free, vegan lifestyle that heals the climate and restores right relationships in the true spirit of Homo Ahimsa for all generations to come.
I wanted to show that clip so people that might want to get involved, and I do want to tell people that you don't have to be a grandmother. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the pledge that we just played there.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. The pledge, in a community where the grandmothers are involved and doing their love-based work, it requires the whole community, the children and the grandfathers and the parents. And so anyone that chooses to join the grandmothers in our mission to create a love-based vegan world for our children and, the next 7 generations, if this shall be, are welcome to join. The only requirement is veganism. And I've recently connected with a couple beautiful young women who started the very first ever Vegan Earth Day March. And I need these feisty young people in there who know what they're doing with social media and their ability to connect, that sometimes, if you're a little older and you started in technology a little later, you might not be quite as aware of. So Sailesh is a grandmother because he says that the feminine divine is within all of us. It's the feminine divine that will heal. Mm-hmm.
I just love that. And we know about the Vegan March. We had one of the founders or organizers on, Serena. We had her on before the march. And I think that's a wonderful point that the children are bringing this all in. They're the ones that are going to take this to the next level with the support of the grandmothers, with the impetus from the grandmothers. And it just made me laugh when you said that Dr. Sailesh Rao is a grandmother. It kind of makes you laugh, but at the same time, it's a warm feeling because it really just means you're a person of wisdom that wants to express love and give their creativity. And that was another thing, that you are an author, you're a raw food chef. And I want to get into all of that with you, how you use your creativity. But let's watch this clip with the kids, and then we're going to go into those other subjects. Let's watch the kids. I just love that clip. Why don't you talk a little bit about your website? That's where I got these clips from, and a little bit about the production of that whole thing, if you care to.
So we're part of climatehealers.org, and on the homepage you'll be able to click on, see a little bit of information of the grandmothers. We have all of our letters that we've been writing. I think we have 16 or 18 now, something like that. We've been on a huge letter writing campaign. The grandmothers are really just launched this year. That the thought came a couple of years ago, but really just launched this year. So we've been really busy writing letters, and you'll be able to find all those letters on our website, and you can share them and send them off to the people. The letterhead's all on there. Everything's on there that you need to just forward the letter from your own email, because we believe that power in numbers. And the grandmothers, who's going to argue with the grandmothers?
Absolutely. Let's talk about this image that you are using for the background. I think it really tells the story of the sacredness of the grandmothers and the wisdom and their connection to Mother Earth, which of course is one of the main points. But I also want to show here that this is where I got a lot of my clips. So if you want to watch that whole thing and the song that goes further, it's really heartwarming. But I think the most important thing to show is what you were just speaking of, the letters. So why don't you, can you guys see this? I'm on another screen. Yeah, you can. Oh, great. So why don't you just talk a little bit of how people can get involved in the letter writing?
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. People can just go on to Climate Healers and press join us under the Million Vegan Grandmothers. We have regular newsletters, and then we meet every second week on a Wednesday evening, and all that information is on there. We meet in the Convergence Room, which the link is also on Climate Healers, and we discuss whatever the topic is, whether it's letter writing, whether we're going to be doing a roundtable. We talk about some of the podcasts. We have podcasts now. And we also share what's going on for us. So, and the image is a painting I did years ago, and I do believe in.
Wow.
Yeah,
You
and
did this?
I did it years ago, and I think that this is how I believe spirit works, because it's happened over and over again in my life. I've been on a very deep spiritual journey that keeps showing up for me in different ways. And I was painting grandmothers continually long before I was a grandmother. And I think somewhere in my spirit, I knew this was on its way, because that's how it is. There's no past or future in the continuum of spirit. It's all dictated through this wonderful cosmos. Mm-hmm.
You know, I have the same spiritual belief, and I don't know where it comes from, but I think it comes from, you know, my background in my past and perhaps past lives. Not everyone believes in that, but I do. And I was intrigued. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, and I just want to pop this in here for a moment, because I noticed that you had a mandala, and you were just speaking about, you know, we're all one, and how that all ties into the vegan message of why we have to care about each other and the planet. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, you know, I think until we move into unconditional love and have enough community and support, and then there's the physical stuff that I'll talk briefly about when I introduce one of my books. But until we have that, it's really hard to realize we're all connected. I think more people die of loneliness than anything else, and all the side effects of loneliness. And the grandmothers, in the traditional way, were loving and gathering and bringing people together and feeding people. Part of Climate Healers, they have food healers, and I'm trying to get into the school system, into 9 inner city schools, which should work out to 18,000 vegan meals a day for these children.
Wow.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but I had a dream again, and it needs to happen. So that's part of Food Healers with Climate Healers. And we try to feed people at every event, our Unity Stew, or, you know, I know it goes on in LA a lot. And that's what the grandmothers do. Very, very few of us don't have grandmothers where we went to their home and they were like, eat some more.
Right. Because food is so much about love. Maybe you can, so we don't run out of time, maybe you can introduce your books now, because we will be talking about food and eating when we talk about your books. So Do you want to introduce the 2 books that you've written and what you're working on now?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'll just give a little bit of background before I show Earth Gut. I had a near-death experience, actually. I was dying of Crohn's, and many years ago, I ended up at a wellness center in the States, Hippocrates Health Institute, raw vegan. And I had this vision that I would write a book. And at first I thought it would be called Peace, Love, and Microbes. It would be sectioned into 3 sections. And I ended up doing my master's thesis. I have a master's in plant-based nutrition. I studied with Dr. Gabriel Cousins and various other physicians through the Tree of Life in Patagonia, Arizona.
Wow.
And I did my thesis on the gut and the microbiome and lifestyle and plant-based nutrition. And so this is my first book. It's called Earth Gut, The Story of Peace, Love, and Microbes. The hummingbird is very symbolic for me. The hummingbird stands for the incredible journey and joy and the ability to get things done. And I'm telling you, that was the incredible, almost impossible journey of healing. But once you know how to heal disease, you can heal disease. That's the thing, unless we're too far. So that's
we can heal ourselves. Yes. Can you just explain for people that don't know what Crohn's disease is, a little bit about the gut and the diseases and how the raw food heals? Can you talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. So this is about healing digestive diseases and digestive issues of all kinds. So ulcerative colitis, itis, and so people aren't freaked out, just simply means inflammation. So when you get a diagnosis, they're just telling you where your inflammation is, arthritis. And I tell that to people because the body is such a self-healing organism. So what Crohn's does is it affects multiple layers of the intestinal tract all the way from the mouth to the anus. Whereas colitis is just in the, ulcerative colitis is just in the large intestine. And IBS it's usually just in the large bowel also. And it's the inflammation and usually a lot of allergic reactions is IBS. So it stands for irritable bowel syndrome. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but one of them is our food supply is really toxic. You know, most conventional food is sprayed with Roundup. The main ingredient is glyphosate. And the work at a Dr. Zach Bush's clinic is that 1 serving of glyphosate, which there's way more than that, like there's so much glyphosate in regular food. Once it hits the intestinal lining, it creates leaky gut in 12 to 15 minutes. So leaky gut is intestinal
Go ahead.
intestinal hyperpermeability. So our bowels are like a cheesecloth, but a tightly woven one. And when there's toxins in or allergens that are in our intestines that come through our digestive tract, when the body does not like them, when they're toxic, when they're full of chemicals, those little cheesecloth pieces open up to allow the toxins to go back out because it's too much for the bowels. The bowels don't want to explode with toxicity, but then it starts leaking into our bloodstream and creates systemic inflammation, which is often the case. Most people have leaky gut because of how they're eating, their lifestyle, and lots of other factors. Even gluten. And gluten creates a little bit of leaky gut for people, especially conventional.
And what about, go ahead.
I was saying especially conventional gluten because they use Roundup to spray the wheat crops, desiccate it before they harvest it to dry it out. Yikes.
So what about organic wheat? Because I've gone down that the gluten path, and I have to say I'm Italian. I love my Italian bread, and the gluten-free isn't as good. And if it's not, like, you have to be ethical, you know, it's just purely my health. Sometimes I'll cheat, which is bad because I have to love myself too. But anyway, back to the gluten. What about non-GMO and that sort of thing? Is it?
Well, I think when people have any gut issues, there's been a lot of research on gluten, period. And so that it still creates a little bit of leaky gut, even for people that aren't gluten intolerant. The thing with gluten is that after a while, you might be able to get away with a little bit. I buy a little bit of stone ground from a local farmer of heirloom grains. There's a combination, and I sourdough it. Actually, sourdough it takes me 4 days to make the bread, but I eat very, very little of it. And the thing is, I as a raw food chef, I make tons. I'm a crunchy, salty kind of person. If I'm going to really, if I'm going to feed something that I'll make that with flax, organic flax and hemp seed crackers. So I got all my omega-3 oils, and I have this nice crunchy nummy, and I use my leftover juice ball, and then I'll put a little bit of raw tahini on there and a little bit of miso. It just totally, because I used to love toast, and I do this instead, and it's amazing. And so I think if we can get our needs met, because the flax is healing my gut, the hemp parts are healing my gut. So I think that there's food that is because the Tree of Life was an Essene ministry. So they look at food as biodynamic or basically destroying the body. We want to eat food that's really highly biodynamic. So we can still eat neutral food, or maybe get away with food that's not great for us. But Gabriel Cousins said, food is our love note from God. And we need to honor that. We need to honor that we have the medicine right now, most of us. And I absolutely honor people that don't even have enough food to eat. So please, I know this is a white privileged comment I'm making. If we do have the ability to make choices of I get very emotional because
I'm emotional too. That's why you're on camera.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Right.
I didn't always have access to a lot of food growing up. And I sometimes have to remember when I'm saying we have access to all this high nutrition dense food, but not everybody does. I want to honor all the people in the food deserts and the people that, I just did an interview with Lauren Ornelas from the Food Empowerment Project, and it was very eye-opening. And it's very, very important for us to recognize that some people, the only place they're going to get fruit is in a liquor store in their food deserts. So, but if we do have access to making choices of what's on our plate, why not eat the food that loves us back the most?
And I think there's so much hope, because part of the programs, and I am so touched by what you're saying. So I totally, get the little tears. But look, teaching people in the inner cities to grow their own food and in the desert, that would be more difficult, but there are still ways to work with nature and the environment. And I think that's part of what you're teaching. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm not on the front lines of that, but I've interviewed a lot of people. So I do teach food online. I was able to do a podcast with Hip Hop is Green with Keith Tucker, and he has huge projects going on, along with many, many other people that are building urban gardens, food forests, and allowing starting to break down structures like the documentary They're Trying to Kill Us. There's lots and lots of people on the front line trying to bring real food to people. And I thank them deeply. And I think that's something that the grandmothers are going to be a really large part of. I said to Keith Tucker, I really want the grandmothers to be working with the grandchildren and the children of us all in those urban communities that are going up. I just think that's fantastic.
Yes, and it's all about education, and it goes back to the fact that we can use our creativity. We're all gifted in different ways, and we can all use whatever it is, whether we're a mechanic or we're a chef or we know how to plant, we're a horticulturist, that's not the word, but farmer, somebody that can grow things. We can all use our skills to help. I think maybe we can talk a little bit about your other book before we run out of time. And then I'm going to show some clips from the other grandmothers. So did you want to talk about your other book for a moment or two?
Sure. Lindsey, this book came out of a kind of a response. Dr. Will Tuttle wrote the foreword for it, and Sailesh Rao wrote the preface. It's called Sacred Sovereignty, the Infinity 8 Path to Heal. And I'm not a great marketer, I have to tell you. I'm doing so many different things all the time. But it came out of a reaction that people don't know basic biochemistry on how to be well. And I was teaching people nutrition, but feeling like I was starting over and over and over again. And so I wanted to write a protocol, and I was given this protocol again in this divine kind of space that I was meditating in. So the HEAL protocol, the Infinity 8 piece of that, the H stands for hydration and homeostasis, the E for energy and electrons, the A for anti-inflammatory and alkalinity, and the L for love and light. And we need all 8 of those in order to be well. And not necessarily light in like, oh, I want to live in the light, which is beautiful. We do. We want to keep our thoughts light if we can, deal with what we have to deal with grief, which is what I'm working on right now, my third book with my partner. But we also are light beings. We're electrical beings, and we have to have enough mineral density to actually get the hydration, the water across the cell membranes to light up our mitochondria. That's why the first protocol is hydration. And, Dr. Zach Bush said that no one comes into his clinic that's unwell, that's thoroughly hydrated. Mm-hmm. Wow. And he has a really great test for that. It's called a phase angle test. And I use the same test to test people's cellular hydration levels. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. And I love the way that you bring the spiritual aspect, but you also bring in the science, that you're dealing with both sides of that. And that's so, the whole idea that we're light beings, which of course we are scientifically proven, but that we need minerals. Of course we need minerals. Of course we need these things we're not getting in our food. Let's tell people the name of your podcast. And then I want to do a quick little plug for Unchained TV. So tell the name of your podcast, if you would, and where people can find it.
It's the Million Vegan Grandmothers. And if you go onto Podbean, it's all over. It's on Spotify and throughout. Podbean, yeah. And so just the Million Vegan Grandmothers, really easy to remember. We also have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We want to gather the grandmothers together by the end of this year. We want to have close to 1 million. We're not nearly there yet, but we're gathering. And
that's okay. You're going to get there for sure. And I definitely intend to join. I think this organization is incredible. And the idea ties in so many things. And it's like you were talking about how you just come upon the things that you need to come upon at the right time. And it leads you with your dreams and your paintings and everything you've done to your path. And I feel like veganism has been the same thing for me. It's led me to a path. And some of the things I'm dealing with myself and learning about, you're talking about, it just gives me so much authentication of what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Awesome.
But before I forget, I don't want to jump on myself here, but I wanted to mention we're streaming on Unchained TV, so please download the app if you have not done so. It's completely free and always free. It isn't a month free, and then you have to start paying. And please share it out, this podcast, and share out the Unchained TV streaming network with your friends. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And I know later there'll be a lot more people watching this podcast because it remains on the streaming network and on multiple platforms like YouTube and Facebook. But we want to talk about some other things. We want to bring in some of the other grandmothers and let that lead us into more conversation. So I'm going to play this clip here of Celia Acevedo.
I've been vegan for 10 years. My son brought the whole notion to our home and shared some of the documentaries at that time. We decided, let's do it. It was Wednesday. We decided to start being vegan on Saturday. That's been almost 10 years in April. As a vegan mother, I saw my role as really trying to find the food that we would eat, make it a very positive thing for us, and to share it as much as possible. As the years went along, got more into activism for animals, for the planet, and saw how reaching out would be helpful to share veganism. And so that was as a very caring mother, and with, moving along with my years, 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to meet this beautiful baby. My granddaughter Arya came to us. Totally wonderful. Her mother is an activist, so baby has been vegan from birth. So it just helped strengthen our veganism, our activism. So along the way, I have searched for opportunities to share vegan food, to share the joy of vegan food. If it's Chili's on Wheels in Skid Row, Los Angeles, if it's sharing a presentation on how to make tamale casserole at a community college, Veg Fest, or just hosting a meetup in my home to share vegan food. Those are the things that I've done. When we attended the Women's March in Los Angeles a few years back, veganism wasn't an issue at the top of the list for women's rights. However, we carried signs about how dairy is violence against females, and that we should, as women, defend those female animals, those cows, not be harmful to them. So that was a big day where we felt that as women who are vegan and who share this goal of healing our planet through veganism, it was very unifying for us, but also sharing that message with all these women was very powerful. And so I see the grandmothers sharing across the world by mouth, by example, by sharing food, by carrying their babies with them. It's the whole world getting together as the powerful women who grandmothers can be.
Grandmothers are so powerful. It's so inspiring. And I think the whole thing is it's inviting because it's a grandmother. I know Celia, she's an amazing person, and she does a lot of outreach on Skid Row and other areas like that. And how do you think, what is the most important message that we send out to all those grandmothers who have not yet tried the vegan diet? How would you, if you were in a room of them, what would you say to them?
I would say to them that we can make all the dishes, all the nutritious, loving, kind food that we love making for our families in whatever tradition. We can make them plant-based and our families will love it. But not just that, we can heal. We can heal. We can help our family heal. And there's no guarantee that we can heal every disease, but I know that plant-based nutrition heals a lot. And I do know how deeply the grandmothers care. And I would say to all the grandmothers who have not tried out veganism and have not been the way showers for their family yet, please, please take 30 days to experience your own changes within your own body. I said in my thesis a lot, be the study of one, and then bring it forth in a loving way to your family. And that's what I do. I don't serve anything that's not vegan. I haven't for a long time. And my grandkids, that's where I draw the line with them because they're not being raised vegan yet. I say, hey, grandma's here, and we're Oma. I'm Oma because I love the vibrational sound Om and Ah, two of the high vibrational sounds in the world. I say to them, we eat vegan when Oma takes care of you. And because Oma doesn't eat animals, so I don't eat the secretions that are supposed to go to baby cow's milk. So I ask the grandmothers to please step up for your own health because your family love you and they want you to be there as long as possible, and then make the change within your family. Teach. There's a lot of wise elders out there who have done veganism, a lot of teachers, a lot of doctors, a lot of physicians who can help you lead the way and help your family become educated, because this is the way that we're moving. So let's be the trailblazers for the world, because this, it's not going to be very long. Maybe just 2026 we'll say, what were we thinking? What were we thinking by eating all of those animals that deserved much more love and compassion than we gave them?
And it might be too late by then. According to Dr. Rao, we will have destroyed So we will have gone too far. There's a likelihood, we don't know. We are tottering on the edge. He has that image of the baby in the bathtub, which people can go to climatehealers.org and check that all out. I want to throw in here a disclaimer that we are not giving medical advice, and this is purely for people to take in on their own and experience on their own. But I personally know from my own experience of before I was vegan, I was having digestive issues, which when I became vegan, I am managing on a plant-based diet. Now, I'm not raw yet, but this is all very interesting to me. And I wanted to ask you, for people that want to learn more, what are the steps they should take? Should they contact you? Should they, in addition to that, is there a website, or what should they do? What would be the step that you would recommend here?
Oh, thank you for asking, Lindsay. I'm actually just building a new website. My old one, I haven't been able to manage, and the person that put it together for me, which is TamiHay.com. But I am doing nutritional consulting. It's one of my deepest passions. And because I've seen people heal so quickly, a lot of, again, disclaimer that we can't guarantee anything. But what I've seen in wellness centers over and over again, when people give the bowels a rest, because the bowel is the entire body. Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. Also all healings. The other thing that was really profound that Hippocrates said that a lot of people don't know about, he said, evil lurks in the gut.
Wow.
So when I was studying with Dr. Gabriel Cousins, we all did a 7-day juice fast. And we did a green juice fast, very low glycemic. And the Indican tests, which test bowel toxicity, test after 5 to 7 days on a green juice fast, all the bowel toxicity was gone. So then you're not recirculating these toxins in your system, because the gut is the place to test that. And yes, they can reach out to me, True Grandmothers on Climate Healers right now. And also, so my contact is grandmothers@climatehealers.org. And I'm always really happy to do distant nutritional consulting and help people turn their health around and make it really easy. I love teaching food classes because I have my trusty food processor. I tell so many people, do you have a food processor? Yeah, but it's been in the basement forever. And I'm like, get it out, because I am the laziest chef there is. And I put it all in the food processor. There, I have my cabbage salad. And when I make my cabbage salad every 3 days, because cabbage has every nutrient you need to survive, the sulfur is so amazing for the bowels, I make my sauerkraut at the same time. Just massage it with a little bit of salt, put it in a jar.
Wow. So 2 things people can do. One of them is a juice fast. Of course, consult your doctor first if you have any medical issues, or it's always good to consult your doctor. But a juice fast, when you say green juice, low glycemic, that means no, don't put pineapple in there, right? So what would be, that would be just strictly green. So let's just quickly tell people the two things. With the drink, it would be, what greens would you put in it?
Okay, so the Tree of Life, the phase angle chart that anybody could get off the internet, Gabriel Cousins phase angle chart for juicing, is 80% cucumber celery mixed. And then you can add 20% of whatever else, whether it's a little bit of apple, lime, kale, whatever it is. The celery is so high in minerals and so hydrating. And of course, cucumber is almost all water. And that's 80% of the green juice. And then 20% of whatever else you choose, kale.
And should you start off with maybe a 3-day fast, or a week? Sounds like a long
Even
time.
A 1-day fast helps the body. It allows the body. Well, sometimes the week is a great support. I usually only put people on 5 days. It's usually all they can handle. But even 1 day a week of green juice fasting will allow the body to get caught up on the detoxification process, because whenever we eat, even if it's fairly healthy food, we still have to rest and digest. When we're not eating, the body can grab all the toxins that are everywhere in the body and the system and start to flush them out, because it doesn't have to spend so much energy digesting and assimilating the food.
And that's why they say that it's healthy to fast, but you really should do it in the right way. Now, the other thing was the salad, and I think you said that it had a lot of cabbage. That cabbage was a key ingredient. Do you want to just quickly explain that a little bit more?
Well, I make tons of raw food, but the one thing I always teach in all my classes is a cabbage salad. So I cut up pieces of cabbage, some carrot, maybe a bit of apple if someone likes, maybe some parsley, whatever else they want to add to the cabbage. And I use my food processor to make it to whatever consistency I want. And the trick I always tell people, don't fill your food processor more than half full, because everything will be really small on the bottom. And it's just the S blade on the bottom. And I quickly do my cabbage and I make a great big bowl of it. And then I use some of that cabbage and vegetables to massage with salt, to put in a jar to make sauerkraut, because sauerkraut's such a great healer for the gut. So much research, especially when COVID came out, on fermented vegetables and the ability for us to be able to fight off virus and disease. Green Med Info has a lot of information on that. And so, and then I just add a little bit of apple cider vinegar or lemon. If you salt, you can use a little bit, or salt alternatives. And just, I do use, I'm not SOS free. I do use a tiny bit of pure organic olive oil in there, but you don't have to. And apple cider vinegar and lemon are preservatives. And that will stay in the fridge easily for 3 days. I like to teach people food that they can have on hand, because when you're hungry, make it easy. Have a little bit of organic raw tahini and an apple, a couple apples. Leave your house with your washed apples. Spread a little bit of tahini on there, your cabbage salad, and I store everything in jars. So you can get a lot of jars in your fridge. You can have your juice ready to go, your smoothies ready to go, your jar of salad. And if you just spend a couple hours prepping, you'll have enough food for 2 or 3 days, and you can grab and go, grab and go, grab and go.
That's amazing. Let's watch a couple of more grandmother clips, and then I'm going to give you some time. We're about 3/4 through the interview, so I'm going to give you some time to talk about what you'd like to.
So I see people around me, including a lot of grandmothers, who I hope will be inspired to follow the program that I put together. It's an anti-addiction to the standard American diet protocol that's pretty straightforward and simple. As a single childless woman, when families come together, people like me have minimal influence over the menu. But the grandmothers, the real grandmothers, the big mamas, as we call them in this African American community, have all the influence. So when the big mamas go vegan and say, okay, this is how it's going to be, then everyone else will fall into line. So I've been promoting that idea in my family and other families I get a chance to speak to. I really think that magic can happen when Jewish culture, the woman who runs the house is the balabusta. So if the balabustas are running it from a vegan perspective in an anti-cruelty, pro-health, environmental health stance, then everything changes, because that's where the power lies. The women run the world. So grandmothers are the top of the chain of women. So y'all will run the world, and I will happily be a part of helping you do that. So I can see everything changing, just flipping effortlessly, really, because it's the men, the patriarchy, that's resisting this change. So when the power is shifted into the hands of the feminine energies, then I think the sky is the limit.
And I want to say the men will benefit also. Everyone will benefit. Who do you have here with you? I bet this is your granddaughter.
It is my oldest granddaughter. This is Emmy. Yeah.
Hi. Thanks for coming on.
My son passed away, which made me much more passionate to want to bring the message out. His heart failed when he was 31, and he left me this girl as a result of the gift to carry on his spirit. And she's so much like him. So it's been such a gift to share my time and my energy with her. Yes. And I also have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old granddaughter. So Emmy's 9 now, but she's really tall and very strong. Like her dad was 6'5". So Emmy's going to be a basketball player, I think.
How do you like the vegan food your grandma cooks?
It's
Or doesn't cook, actually. It's raw, right? Prepares.
Well, this is the beautiful thing, is that when you start preparing food with your babies, your grandbabies when they're young, I didn't prepare her food this weekend. What did you? You made a smoothie. She made 2 smoothies, actually. And we made ice cream yesterday. We made some strawberry coconut milk ice cream. And then Emmy made her own guacamole and cut up her cucumbers and decided what she was going to have for breakfast.
And so I saw in one of the videos, someone, I think it might have been you, talking about children in kitchen with knives and how most, people are afraid, but actually what happens is the ones that don't get to experience it grow up into adults and they're dangerous with knives. So you taught your grandchildren at a young age how to work in the kitchen with all the tools and so forth?
It's amazing. They usually cut themselves once or twice and that's it.
We all do though, right?
Right. And then I don't even think twice about giving Emmy a knife. She really loved today. She made her guacamole. She says, this is my favorite part. Right, Em? She stuck the knife, slammed the knife into the pit and give it a turn and pulled it out.
Mine too. That's my favorite part too, for some reason. I don't know. There's something gratifying about it, right? So what are you guys going to do later today, quickly, before we go on? What are your plans for today?
Remember? We're going to the Veg Fest. It just happens to be the Veg Fest today for Edmonton. Edmonton vegans are gathering together in a beautiful park, and we're going to a Veg Fest. I wanted to prepare some unity stew. I like to bring a big pot of unity stew everywhere I go as part of Climate Healers' mission to feed as many people as possible everywhere we go.
Tell people what's in there, because I don't think everyone knows what's in unity stew. I do, because I've gone to Climate Healers events.
Oh, well, it's an assortment of whatever vegetables you have, and then a grain and a legume of some kind. I usually use lentils and either a little bit of black rice. I like black rice because it's really high in protein. And I cook those together because they cook at almost the same rate. And then just lots of water, whatever spices you want, whatever vegetables you want to cut up. And again, I use my food processor for that because it's like, rah, 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 and my vegetables are all cut up. So I can make unity stew very quickly.
Yeah, that's easy for people to remember. Vegetables, a grain, and a legume. And that's a complete protein and nutritionally balanced meal for people to eat. And again, that would not be expensive. Am I correct? I mean, those things are not expensive. So it is possible for everyone to have a vegan diet. Do you want to comment on that? Because you're an expert and I'm not.
Well, it is very easy. And I think the thing is, one of the things I love to teach people is sprouting in jars, because I live pretty far north. And I can have 4 or 5 jars of sprouts in a jar, just soak them overnight, whatever kind of sprouts, maybe mung beans or some broccoli sprouts, whatever I choose. I soak them overnight, then I drain them and I rinse them twice a day. That's it. And what I use for my little sprouting lids, so I use a glass jar and I use the ring that you turn onto the jar. And I bought a big roll of screen and I just cut a little piece of screen and then I strain them. That's a tip I give everybody. We don't have to buy the expensive sprouting lids. We can just use a little bit of screen, screw it in there and strain it. And some of the sprouts start sprouting within a day and a half, and they're living food till you eat them. And so you can add those to any salads. You can even add them to your soup later on if that's what somebody wants to, or add them to the end of a little bit of a stir fry. One thing I do teach people, because I'm so far north, a lot of people don't want to go raw. I say, hey, make yourself a great big huge salad, and it's almost all raw, and then saute some squash. Squash is really good for the bowels. The bowels love squash. Saute a little bit of squash, zucchini, or something warm, and then pour it on hot. And most of your vegetables are still raw, but your salad will taste really warm. And there's all kinds of ways of heating up our food, but staying predominantly raw.
I love that, because it gives people that want to kind of ease their way into it an opportunity. Let's watch one more quick clip and then I'm going to let you wrap up because we're almost out of time.
And so what I want to say is that I've been caring for the children of the world a lot longer than I've been a grandmother. since I was 10 years old, really. And I made a decision that the way to change the world was to change how we treat the children. It's because I was in a family in which my stepfather and my mom did not have support or tools or information about how to raise children well. And even at 10 years old, I could tell that what I was being exposed to was not in my best interest. And realize that if we could raise children differently, if we could raise children like Jane's granddaughter, Kimaya, children who are very compassionate, who have emotional intelligence, who know how to interact with others peacefully, who are wise, if we could give families the support that they need to be able to raise such children, that we could indeed change the world. And I still believe that to be so.
I guess all of you know our granddaughter, Kimaya. She's going to be 11 years old. We have a great time with her. I mean, I commend all of you who have grandchildren who are not vegan, because I couldn't even imagine going through that. I take her with me to vegan potlucks. We go to vegan restaurants. When we travel, she even seeks out vegan restaurants for us. She says, oh, I'd like to try this one. And 2 years ago, we were in London with the $1 Million Vegan campaign, and we were staying in the middle of Hackney, and there were so many vegan restaurants walking distance that Kimaya just had a great time picking them out and enjoying herself. She's also a product of the Montessori program, so the next school she's going to actually has a lunch program where at least one meal will be vegan each time when she goes to lunch every day. So she's excited about not having to worry about packing a lunch at home. And mommy and daddy are thrilled that they don't have to worry about guessing what to pack for her lunch. I don't mind packing her lunch because she helps me out. It's a joy being a grandmother. Kimaya is our only grandchild at the present time. Don't know if we're going to have any others, but it's okay. She's a pleasure to have in our lives. She's changed our lives tremendously, for the good, of course. And thrilled to be part of this program too. Thank you, Tami, for everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Tami. I want to give you the last word here, but I also want to tell folks, don't worry, I'll be putting all the links at the top of the broadcast. So you just come back to the facebook.com/Jane Velez Mitchell. I'll also put them on the streaming network so that you can get in touch with Tami. Tami, what would you like to wrap up with for our audience? I'm going to give you the full screen to go ahead here.
I just thank everyone for being present to this video. And as Jane always says, Jane Velez Mitchell always says, we don't want to just always be preaching to the choir. And I believe that when 1 million of us come together, and sorry, I get a little weepy when I feel into this. And let's say, for example, we take one day to decide across the world that we're going to march for the cows. It's a feminine issue that have been their babies stolen, the cows have been raped, that we're going to march across the world, because there's going to be grandmothers across the world when the million or millions of us come together. One day, they're not going to be able to ignore us. So please, please, for your family, become vegan and see what a difference it makes in yourself. And you're going to want to share that love food with your family. And we need to join together, because they're not going to be able to ignore us. Like the letters, it's the grannies, just please get them to stop. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, and thank you so much for being on. And everyone out there, I urge you to join. This is such an incredible movement. It's a movement about love, compassion, and bringing peace to the planet and health to the planet for all beings. This is such an incredible opportunity for us to all participate. So please, please go to the website, climatehealers.org. Vegan grandmothers, the links will be up there, and take action. Tami, thank you for being on. Everyone, thank you for watching. I'll be back next week. And Tami, I hope you will come back on again. And everyone watch Tami's podcast. It's amazing. I know already. So catch you next time, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye, Tami.
Namaste, vegan.